I am the project manager for the Chicago Riverwalk with the Department of Assets, Information, and Services. Thank you for joining us this morning with the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection as we talk about the Chicago Riverwalk Community Marketplace opportunities starting in 2022. This is an actual photograph of the community marketplace. It's located west of Michigan Avenue and east of Wabash. You can see it's kind of tucked in right under Upper Wacker Drive and right along the Riverwalk there at the bend. The Chicago Riverwalk is a 1.25 mile long pedestrian path, runs parallel to Wacker Drive. It's on the south bank of the main branch of the Chicago River. And it's from the DuSable Lakeshore Drive all the way to Lake Street. So it's a whole 1.25 miles. You can see this community marketplace. That lower photo shows it's between Michigan and Wabash. And again, tucked under Upper Wacker Drive. It's one of the few areas of the Riverwalk that's actually covered during rain events. So people kind of huddle underneath there when it's raining. But the community marketplace was created in 2019 with the intention to bring local Chicago-owned businesses reflective of the diverse, culturally significant neighborhoods of the city of Chicago. So the Chicago Riverwalk is actually part of the 1909 Plan of Chicago by Daniel Burnham and Edward Bennett. In 2009, we worked with the architectural firm Skidmore, Owens & Merrill and came up with a master plan for the Riverwalk in general. And that's part of that was creating these 4 different districts. So we have the Confluence District on the far west end, and that shows where the main, north, and south branches all come together and create that Y symbol that you see in our city's municipal device. You see that Y logo in some of our older buildings like the Cultural Center, and it's also very famously portrayed in the Chicago Theater marquee. Then as we move to the east, we have the Arcade District, and that is to represent the arcade, the row of arches from Wacker Drive, so all the way from Franklin to State Street. As we continue east from State Street, now we're in our Civic District, and this is where our Vietnam Veterans Memorial is located, as well as the McCormick Bridge House and Chicago River Museum, which is that charming little bridge house museum that's managed by Friends of the Chicago River. And then again, as you continue on to the east some more, you're in our Esplanade District, which is the nice and wooded path that we've just recently refreshed again in 2019. So my department, the Department of Assets, Information, and Services, began overseeing the Chicago Riverwalk in 2015, including the concession program. We're able to construct the section of the Riverwalk between State Street and Lake Street between 2015 and 2016 using a federal loan. And it's from a program called TIFIA, the Transportation and Innovation Financing Initiative Act. And so we were able to take this nice loan, which works like a mortgage that the city will pay back over the course of 30 years with revenues that are generated from the Riverwalk itself. And so because these revenues were pledged towards repayment of the loan, they said, let's manage the Riverwalk like an asset and take care of it as such. And then also bring on this concession program that would bring people down to the Riverwalk to spend their money. Unfortunately, this image didn't show up as well as I would have liked, but this shows the revenues from the concession program. So before my department took over the concession program, the program was managed by the Park District. And so revenues were lingering at about $1 million, $1.4 million just from a small little program. Now remember too, this was also the section that was everything pretty much east of State Street. So there wasn't this whole longer section that we had just constructed. In 2015, revenues jumped up to 4.6 million. You can see that right in the top of that little allium flower there, that 4.6. By 2016 though, we got up to 9.4 million. And so revenues continued to rise until, of course, 2020 happened and we had the closures from the pandemic and revenues dipped again. But I'm really pleased to tell you that already in 2021, we've exceeded our 2019 revenues. And this is not even counting the September figures from the vendors that have been out there. So the concession program in the Chicago Riverwalk has been very, very successful. So in 2018 and 2019, we made these improvements to the eastern section, and this is the oldest section of the Riverwalk. And we added some new landscaping, some new pavement, new lighting, seating, utilities, which most people don't really appreciate unless you don't have them. And so to have these new utility improvements were great for the vendors that were in this location. Public restrooms are very, very popular down here on the Riverwalk. And of course, our community marketplace was also constructed. Now here's a layout of the marketplace. And you see up in the top there is the Chicago River. And then you see we have kiosk 1 through 7. Type A is our basic retail kiosk. Type B is more of the food and beverage kiosk. And so they're longer and they have more equipment for people who are managing food and beverage. Here is an example of kiosk A and C. Sorry, kiosk C is also a retail kiosk. And again, you'll see from this little diagram, they're about 12 feet long and about 6.5 feet wide. And so again, it's a small little space, but you're able to actually get quite a bit in this location. Here's our kiosk B, which is, again, you'll see 20 feet long. You see that there's a hot well in the center there next to the cold well. We also have a hand sink and a dish sink, so it meets all the health department requirements. I will tell you it is a very small confined space, but you are able to actually make it function very well, and vendors have been doing very well this year. And unfortunately, this slide didn't turn out so well either. So basically, we didn't collect revenues from vendors in the 2019 program because the season started so late because it was still under construction. 2020, of course, was the pandemic, so we didn't collect any revenues. But this year, again, very pleased to say we have about $300,000 in revenues from June through August. And I have 2 vendors that have actually exceeded $100,000 in total revenues. So these are vendors that have been open every single day. They've obviously put the work in, but they're being successful with it. I know so many businesses have had challenges this year with staffing and having people show up or even show up to the interviews, much less show up to work. And so I know that has been a challenge for a number of people, including 2 of our kiosk vendors this year. But the vendors that have been open every day have been very successful. So the goals of the program, again, as you look at the bigger revenues from the main concession program, this would be a great opportunity to allow more smaller Chicago-owned businesses to have a chance to operate on the Riverwalk and achieve some of this success. And so really the main goal was to give small businesses an opportunity to have a small presence on the Chicago Riverwalk. We think this enhances the existing concession program, and that if we can bring in more minority and women-owned businesses, that's always a win for the city of Chicago. And one of the real big surprises here, shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but being reflective of the cultural diversity of our neighborhoods. So you see that top photo is Swadish from Chia Chai. And one of the stories he tells me often is how other people from Nepal come to him and said, it's so great to see our people represented down here on the Chicago Riverwalk. And he is one of our super successful businesses. He's been down on the Riverwalk in the concession program for the last couple seasons. And what's great about this is I feel like he's kind of graduating from the program and he's actually opening a downtown location. Now, if you're not familiar with Chia Chai, their main location is on Milwaukee Avenue. And so the idea would be you can't have the full menu here because the kiosk is limited and there's only so much you can do. But you can have like a taste or a sample of what the food at the regular restaurant would be. And the idea would be that you would say, let's go there with my family over the weekend, and let's shop at the other neighboring businesses in Milwaukee Avenue. So that's one of the other big programs, is that people come downtown, have a small taste of this, and then want to go out into the neighborhoods and visit those locations. Another challenge too is that so many businesses were so adversely affected by the pandemic, and a lot of places needed to close. And so what's an opportunity here is that if you've got the experience and you're looking to start something new, but want to kind of start out instead of opening up a brand new big location, you could then operate here on the Riverwalk, generate some revenue, get some capital until you're ready to go on to other bigger and better opportunities. So the marketplace process is kind of tricky, kind of challenging, but we want to make it as easy as possible. So what we're doing is we're issuing this request for qualifications. And so submit your qualifications and get into the program. What will happen then is we'll enter into a master concession license agreement, which will be a 3-year term with 2 possible 1-year extensions. So it could be up to 5 years that you would be considered an eligible or qualified vendor in this program. Then what will happen is that my team will issue requests for proposals for the season. So the first eligible season, if you become a qualified vendor, would be for the 2022 season. If you're selected from that, again, there's a whole evaluation committee and review process that happens, and then the proposals are scored. The selected and the highest scoring vendors then get approved by the commissioner and the budget director. And then we enter into a use agreement, and that would be more specific to which kiosk you'd be operating in and what specifically you would be, what your concession would be doing. We could also, our department could also issue a request for proposals for other locations or for a specific time or special event. So for example, we could do an event at the Confluence area and ask for proposals from our qualified vendors to do a pop-up type activation for a special event, or for, you know, any kind of different number of things that could come up in the city. As you know, we have Art on the Mart on the Chicago Riverwalk, so we could ask for proposals to activate that space for an Art on the Mart installation. So not only are the kiosk locations eligible, but there could be other locations that we could come up with where we'd say it would be really great to have some sort of market type atmosphere or pop-up type event on the Riverwalk. So here's our schedule. We issued the request for qualifications on October 4th. Today's obviously our webinar. Tomorrow will be a pre-submittal teleconference where we'll go through the presentation again, and then also be able to answer and take your questions. The deadline for written questions is October 15th. So again, we'll be able to do questions at the end of this presentation. We'll be able to take all your questions in the chat. If you forget to ask any questions, you are welcome to send them in and email them to me through the Chicago Riverwalk at cityofchicago.org email address. And what we'll be doing then is collecting all the questions that are submitted and publishing the responses to those, so everyone can see all the same responses. They will be published in the DPS alerts page next to the download for the application. And we'll also have it on the Chicago Riverwalk website, which is chicagoriverwalk.us. So those questions and responses will be published by October the 20th. And then November 8th, your applications are due. Your submittal of your qualifications is due. Again, but any questions, that email address is right there, Chicago Riverwalk at cityofchicago.org. So The request for qualification, I realize, is a very intimidating packet of documents, but basically just focus on the exhibits and focus on what it's asking for. So you see we have our scope of services, and that's where we discuss the location of the Riverwalk, of the marketplace, and really how we're requesting to get your concession program, your concession operations defined, and what we want to do. We want to support small businesses. The good thing about having the request for qualifications is everybody can win. The more qualified vendors we have, the better program it's going to be. And so it makes you eligible for all kinds of opportunities that could present themselves on the Riverwalk in the future. Exhibit 2 is the application. We tried to make this as easy as possible because it is kind of an overwhelming task when you look at how many things are required. If you go through the application, you'll see there's 26 questions. Answer all of those questions and just make sure you submit information for all of those, the questions that are answered. The other thing we ask for is company references. So this is a great opportunity for you to talk to some of your regular clients. If you are active in your community with your places of worship, those kinds of company references are great to submit to the evaluation committee. Then there's the affidavit. That's a very simple form. You just have to kind of read through the affidavit. We also provide an example of the insurance requirements. You need to be able to be insured. Obviously, my goal is to make sure the city's always protected, in addition to then supporting the small businesses here for the community marketplace. But please read through the insurance requirements. This is an example, and this is what you'd be required to provide to the city of Chicago as part of your master concession license agreement, and then for future use agreements. Now, the other thing too is we have examples of the master concession license agreement and the use agreement. So please read through those carefully. I would also recommend I know sometimes legal ways of writing things can be a little confusing. You might want to have a chat with your lawyer and ask any questions from these documents just to make sure you have a clear understanding of what your arrangement would be with the city of Chicago once you entered into these license agreements. Now, I'll tell you though, don't have your attorney start drafting changes to it because we will not accept any changes. So again, just make sure that you read through them, that you understand them, and if you have questions about them, that you should go to a source that you trust to get that clarification and that response. Again, these agreements are written to make sure the city of Chicago has the best deal for the city of Chicago, right? Also, you are required to complete an economic disclosure statement. And you can go to the link and see where that is on the Department of Procurement Services website. Now, I do want to tell you, I know some people are good at procrastinating and push things off. Do not wait to the last minute with the economic disclosure statement. It is a very tricky document, and a lot of people get kind of tripped up at the end. So as you're starting to work on your application and submit your qualifications for this program, I recommend starting with your economic disclosure statement. If you have any problems with the link, if you have problems logging in, you can have some time then to work those out. So again, I know a lot of us like to procrastinate. That's fine, but don't procrastinate with this because it is a required document that you need to submit. And basically what you'll do is you'll register it online and then you'll submit your cover page so that we know that it's been registered. Again, this is an item that throughout the years I've been doing this concession program, people get tripped up on it. So I just want to warn you to please make sure you're taking care of that carefully and with plenty of time in case there's any issues that you have time to get those resolved. So let's break down your submittal requirements. As you look through the RFQ, we basically tell you everything that we're looking for. So if you look at the cover letter, that's basically here's your cover letter. What should your cover letter say? If you look at section 5.1.1, there's A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way through I. Those are all the items that we want you to have included in your cover letter. So again, use section 5, the qualification submittal requirement section, as your guide. And again, I realize it seems like it's an awful lot of information, but just make sure that you go through it and you just check every single thing off so you know you've included everything that's been required for the submittal. And it's all spelled out for you. So cover letter is section 5.1.1. The application form is exhibit 2. And again, those are the 26 questions that we've asked. And basically it's for you to outline your qualifications and your experience, and also describe your business. So this is a great way for you to really brag about who you are and what you've done, what you've accomplished over the years, and how great your business is. And then we also ask you to describe the concession you're going to operate on the Riverwalk. So just because maybe you have a taco place doesn't mean you're going to do tacos on the Riverwalk. Maybe you want to do something a little different. So basically, you can do tacos though too. You can be exactly how you have your main operation, but you could also do a little change in it. But this is where you have this chance to describe the concession you're going to operate. It also gives you a chance to talk about all your past experience, all of the different things that you've done over the course of your career and operating your concession. But this is also a chance for you to say maybe things that you've done prior that also helped you get the experience and the expertise that you're at today. The next item is your 3 professional references. Again, this is a great opportunity for you to talk to regular clients and have them really kind of talk about how great you are to do business with. And that's a basic, simple reference form that's also included in your packet. The conflict of interest statement can be included in the cover letter. We have no conflicts of interest. It's a basic statement, but you can put that in your cover letter as opposed to sending one as a separate submittal. It's entirely up to you. The next item is your executed proposal affidavit. That's exhibit 4. Basically print that form out, sign it, have it notarized, and then that is a simple thing. The next item 6, is your legal action for the last 5 years. Now, we know if you're in business in the city of Chicago, things happen. So if you have a legal action, just make sure you explain the circumstances that happened with it. It's a simple form, and it's also just for the last 5 years. So just kind of go through that. And again, if something's happened, just give us a justification for it. Then there's your economic disclosure statement and certificate of filing. Now, again, as I said, this is the one where people just get very confused or have just challenges with submitting. So I would say make sure you do this one first, just so that way, if you have any issues with it, you have some time to resolve them. And hopefully, because I'm making such a big fuss about how challenging the economic disclosure statement form can be, you won't have any issues with it, right? Murphy's Law. The next thing is your financial statements for the last 3 years. Again, we know that 2020 was difficult for everybody. So just again, to give us a sense of how you've been doing since, how you were doing prior, and then if you want to explain some of the challenges that you had in 2020, give the review committee additional information, you're welcome to do that as well. And then also too, we just need a statement saying that you've read and you've seen the insurance requirements and that you know that they will be required of you if you are accepted for any future RFPs and for use agreements. And then finally, any other information you'd like to share with the committee. So is there anything special you do? Are you involved in charity organizations? Are you active in your community through your church or through your schools, whatever? All those kinds of things would be great. If you have a personal story about, an immigration story, where you've come from, or if you've learned your recipes from your grandmother and cooking with her, Those would be great kinds of things to add. Just again, really brag about yourself here, really take this as an opportunity to showcase your experience and your expertise, and really why the committee should consider you a qualified vendor to be included into the pool. Now, the evaluation criteria, like as I said, we're going to have a review committee who will be evaluating all the proposals that we get. Make sure you have a comprehensive submittal. Don't forget to submit your economic disclosure certification of filing. Don't forget to submit your references. Don't forget to submit, the cover letter. Make sure you have everything pulled together and that you've checked everything off the list that's a requirement. The review committee may come to you if you forget something and ask you to resubmit it or to submit it again. But they may also just consider you disqualified because you don't have a complete submittal. So just make sure you kind of check everything off the list and make sure that you have submitted everything in your package. The other thing too is please make sure you explain yourself that you do have an accurate and full understanding of the project. Make sure that you understand that you can explain to us that you understand the importance of being in the Riverwalk and in the community marketplace, and that the element of weather is challenging, the element of not having known numbers of guests on a daily, weekly basis, and just how you are going to approach the project. Then we have your demonstrated experience and successful operation of a business. So the team will look back and say, you've been in business for so long, or you haven't been in business for very long, but you've got a lot of experience with marketplaces or pop-ups or street festivals or similar type of environments that we have to the Chicago Riverwalk. And then also to demonstrate your success and your proposed approach and methodology. So give us a chance to understand how you're going to manage yourself on the Riverwalk. And especially to those of you who already have existing businesses that are successful and in full operation, how are you going to manage that and also manage the Riverwalk? It is an outdoor venue. It is challenging. And again, managing multiple locations is challenging as well. So please make sure that you explain to the committee how you're going to be able to do that. And then also too, again, we really are interested in improving the cultural diversity and really showing up the diversity of our neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. So again, this is important that you're really showing off what you can do and how it really is reflective of our city and if your neighborhood or else your neighborhood or cultural origin. And then of course too, we'll be evaluating the capacity to perform the services in a busy environment. So make sure that you really kind of show the committee through your submittal that you're able to handle a fast-paced environment. One other thing before I take your questions in the chat is that we are required, because these are we do have this transparency requirement for the city of Chicago. So once your submittals are sent to us and we have your application, we are subject to the Freedom of Information Act. And so I could be FOIA'd and they would say, we want to see all the submittals that have been sent in for the request for qualifications for this program. Now, that means I need to send them your whatever your package is. You are allowed to send to me, in addition to your original submittal form, a redacted version. And so that means if you're going to put in any personal information that you want to have redacted, those kinds of things can be redacted. Also, don't put any secret recipes, don't share anything like that. But if you were going to put in some trade secrets or some specialty things that you wanted to share with the committee, but that not with the general public, make sure you redact those items as well. And that just basically means blocking those out and then saving that version of your submittal as a redacted copy. Now make sure you read through the section in the RFQ that talks about redacted submittals, because you can't just redact everything. You have to be kind of very specific on what gets to be redacted and what doesn't. So again, just make sure that you are clear about sending in a redacted version as well. Otherwise, if I do get a Freedom of Information Act request, I will have to send them your submittal. So again, just something to be aware of. I think I've covered most everything. I'm sure there's probably lots more to talk about. My best advice, though, is make sure you read through the RFQ very slowly and carefully, and maybe more than once, and just kind of go through it very slowly and carefully. Again, like I said, we want to get as many qualified vendors in their pool as possible. So this is a great opportunity to get yourself down on the Chicago Riverwalk. So I think we'll turn around and open it up for questions and answers, and hopefully I can answer any questions people have.
Great. So a few questions that come in. Where was the RFQ issued? Is there a link?
The RFQ is on the DPS alerts. So if you go to the Department of Procurement Services and alerts, it's listed there. It is also on the Chicago Riverwalk website, which is chicagoriverwalk.us, and you'll see it'll say concession program opportunities.
Great. Next question. If we have already done an EDS for the Taste of Chicago, do we need to do another one?
Yes, we do. The EDSs are a very limited time. I think they only hold true for like 2 months or something like that. So yes, please submit another one. I don't think you need to do a new one. I think you can refresh your existing EDS that's on file for Taste of Chicago.
Will a pre-proposal conference sign-in sheet or RFQ respondents be circulated or published?
Because we're doing it through this webinar and because we're doing a telephone call tomorrow, I'm not sure how to get a sign-in sheet for that. So no.
Is this open to businesses who only have financial statements for 1 year, newer businesses?
I would say submit, because if you submit, then the committee could at least look at it. So yes, I would say please submit it and then just give an explanation. We've been open for 1 year. Previous to this, here's all the experience we were doing that made us start this business now and makes us eligible or available to be in the marketplace.
Will this slide deck be available or sent out after the session? And also, is this webinar being recorded, and where will you be sending out the link to the attendees?
We will be putting this on the slide deck will be on the Riverwalk website, chicagoriverwalk.us. Also, our friends at BCP are recording this, and we will post that link, but it might take a day or two just to get that onto the city website.
Will Spanish versions of documents and presentations be available?
We can work on that.
How does the city charge vendors for the space? Is it base rent or a percentage or other method?
So for the concession program, they pay us a license fee to operate, and then they give us a percentage of their gross revenues. For the marketplace, we have come up with a straight fee for the sizes of the kiosks, but it alternates per year. So this year we were kind of, we'll take in your proposals. So when you propose, you can say propose to be in the kiosk, and this is how much I'll pay to operate it. And so when we get all the fee proposals, then we negotiate a fee that everyone can accommodate.
Great. Will tax exempt nonprofit status affect our ability to participate?
No, again, too, if you're tax exempt and you are a nonprofit and you're going to be providing some sort of interesting cultural program, whatever, yes, we would love to see that represented in the marketplace.
Great. Is there a way to cook on site, or do you have to prepare and serve hot food with cooling equipment?
So the Department of Health requirements make sure that it's prepared off-site in a approved kitchen. It can be your own personal restaurant kitchen, or vendors that are in the hatchery or places like that can prepare their things there, and then you can heat things and assemble them in the marketplace.
Great. Has a fee been discussed yet?
No, a fee has not been discussed yet. So right now, the idea would be submit your qualifications, and then we want you to be successful. So we want to work with you on what fees would be for future RFPs and for the program. So please don't let the fee be intimidating or nerve-wracking. That's something we want to work with everybody on.
Great. Does your business have to be a Chicago business, or can it be business registered in Illinois?
It can be a business registered in Illinois. Frankly, the review committee is more interested in Chicago businesses, but honestly, you know, the state of Illinois benefits too. So again, you don't need to necessarily be from Chicago.
And that is all the questions that we have.
Those are some great questions. Thank you, everybody. Great. So like I said, we will put this slide deck on the Chicago Riverwalk.us website. We'll also have a recording of this posted. That might take another day or two before we can get that posted and up. And we will work on Spanish versions of the documents and have those posted as well. Thank you, everybody.